Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the NWP podcast. Tonight, we're going to be covering the ANW 17 Qualifiers. Except for episode 1, because we already covered that last time. Yeah. So, I'm not exactly sure when this is going to come out, but it's most likely this will be before the previous episode we filmed, which covered Team Ninja Warriors Season 1. Today we are covering ANW 17 Qualifiers, and it probably will go up before that because I think the Team Ninja videos will require a lot more editing, and will definitely be a lot harder to get pictures from and whatnot. But in terms of this video, we're going to be covering the rest of the Qualifiers. Just to note, this would be very similar to how we covered Season 14's Qualifiers, where we'll just talk about each individual round and the highlights and our thoughts based off individual runs and what we remember. We're not going to be rewatching the individual episodes or, going over every single one and everything, so big rambunctious segments that weren't memorable won't be covered here. But there's definitely some more interesting topics and really some interesting competitors that we will get to discuss, some interesting ones. It's cool to see some of these ninjas back in action. Some of these ninjas haven't competed in a while, which will be a interesting subject to talk about. Speaking of which, in terms of our preliminary discussion, so we decided that from here on out, every episode of the podcast, we'll be doing one small preliminary discussion. We probably did some kind of little intro for this for the teenager video, but since this is coming out first, I'll be a little more less brief with it. Basically, just some kind of opening discussion to warm up our voices, to talk about Ninja, and a little bit related to what we're talking about today. So today, we're going to be talking about some of the competitors who were asked to compete on ANW 17. Basically, ANW 17 is about the legacy of ANW, as we've discussed, and generally speaking, we saw a lot of veterans that we haven't seen in a while. Some good examples being people like Nicholas Coolidge, people who haven't competed in a very long time, but for some reason back. And we have been theorizing about this in our group chat discussions. John proposed an idea that maybe they just emailed random people who had competed in ANW, and he was totally joking. But he might actually be right. Fucking totally, man. I'm just gonna say it. Brian Orosco and Levi Meeuwenberg were asked to compete on ANW 17. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so for a while now, almost a year as I looked into this, it has been known that Levi and Brian Orosco were most likely asked to compete on ANW alongside a whole bunch of legacy ninjas. This would have been a thing a hotshot thing to believe. We can talk more about Levi and Brian's whole fiasco later, but just to talk about the idea that they were bringing back all these old ninjas and just called them randomly and said, "Do you want to come back?" And the answer was a yes or no question. It's kind of hilarious that that's what happened. Yeah, like how desperate do you have to be to get people that could be on your show? Yeah, and it's also really interesting because from my research, people like Paul Casimir weren't asked. A lot of the I looked up a lot of these core older ninjas who were big back then, who got into the top 10 in Japan and everything. Brian and Levi seem to be the exceptions in terms of who was asked and then declined. I think it is really interesting that they even went to that effort to begin with. And it kind of wanes on the season to begin with, because you can kind of tell that that's what they're going for. They're kind of leaning on the whole legacy angle a lot here. Yeah, no shit. Honestly, it's kind of funny just seeing, footage from, way back then. So, yeah, there's that. And there's also just the fact that Brian and Levi were asked. These are people who nowadays are not in the main Ninja Warrior scenes anymore. They haven't been for a full decade, each of them. Starting with Brian Orosco, as I looked this up, and apparently Brian Orosco has a kid now, has had a kid for a couple years now, and he is generally a more humble guy. He's not the most public man in the world, but he still posts decently regularly on social media. He has both a Twitter and he has both a Facebook and Instagram that he posts on every so often. Not regularly, but every so often, whenever he feels like it. I also saw some footage of his son as well, so yeah, he has a kid now. So that's good for him, It kind of does make some sense. Then we have Levi, who, for a solid 10 years, basically bought a ranch and then basically fell off the face of the earth. And that was until 2022, I think, where he finally hopped on his YouTube channel to explain where he's been. And it's honestly a well-made video, first off. Like, if you guys haven't seen that video that Levi made, talking about his career as a parkour artist and how he changed his worldview and his whole job and personality entirely from being this cool parkour guy who'd been on Ninja a few times and a stuntman to, strangely enough, an environmentalist and someone who was working to fight climate change and basically save nature, basically. It's a really interesting pivot. I think the video is really interesting. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember being very much captivated by it. And when I showed it in the group chat, YouTube shared very similar thoughts as well. Yeah, I think Levi is, like, one of the most interesting competitors in ANW. Like, he's someone you could talk about for hours. Or, like, for a while. I recently, with the discussion of Brian Orosco and Levi Meeuwenberg getting back, getting asked to be on the show again, I recently came up with the idea of doing a little bit of a career deep dive on all the people who went to Japan and all the people who were big in those early seasons. So I might end up doing that. There's a lot of those competitors don't have much info, so it'd be tough to do. But I think it would be really interesting to do like a 3-part series on the 10 people who made it to Japan each year of ANW, and just talking about them individually and where they are now. I am doing a very similar video that will come out soon. I don't know when it will come out. I'm kind of deciding on when I want to release it, but it is currently finished and ready to go. So you guys might see in a couple weeks. You might see within the next couple weeks. You might see it earlier than I. Kind of depends on how copyright. You know how it is with those kinds of videos. I tried to use minimal footage in this video, but who the fuck knows if that actually went through or not. So after this podcast recording, I'll go ahead and check. So I'll know then. But going back into it. Yeah, thinking about Levi and Brian, that's where I'm at right now. I feel like those two are very interesting people. Yeah, and even just talking about it, how the fuck are they even supposed to talk about people like that? Because, like, Levi and Brian weren't even really big in ANW. They were big in American Ninja Challenge. Like, that was their era. And they were big in Japan. And that era of the show, Levi and Brian only really had major success on seasons 1 and 2 of American Ninja Warrior, while Levi fell off in season 4, and then Brian Orosco had one of the weirdest slumps of any competitor I've ever seen in ANW ever, where he lost the boot camp in ANW 3 to Drew Dreschel, which is another very interesting pivot just on its own. But then he fell in the qualifiers the next 3 seasons and did not move on to the semis either time. Coming very close to ANW 5 though, from what I saw. But overall, like these are competitors who, like, a lot of the success just simply isn't in the canon that they usually talk about of seasons 4 and onwards. So, like, how the heck would they talk about these people? I think that's one of the most interesting things just to think about. How would they talk about these people? Like, seriously. Yeah, it's not even like David Campbell and Brett Sims, people who haven't competed on the show and competed in the show's canon. Brian Orosco and Levi Meeuwenberg are people who were shafted to the side by the time that era started. So, like, how do you even do them justice in the way the show has been kind of tearing itself down limb by limb over the course of the last couple of years? I mean, in the course of a decade, so much has changed about ANW. I mean, yeah. The best reason I could find for why both of them declined their ticket was because this is Koei Ninja Wiki, but they don't have an actual source. It was said that they did not like the format, which, to be honest here, I don't think I'm surprised. That makes sense. Both of them competed in a time to where it was a lot more exclusive if you got to the finals. Even just considering the whole Las Vegas thing, and the fact that Brian did compete on 3 seasons of AEW that would have culminated in the Vegas finals. They want totally a new thing for him in particular. And Levi, he competed in season 4, so like technically speaking, if he wasn't jet lagged, he probably would have went all the way to Vegas. I have always been curious what would have happened if Levi wasn't jet lagged during season 4, and if he actually got to go to Vegas. I think that is a very interesting thing to think about, because Levi still had the skills. I think he just was in a very bad mental state coming off the flight. Like, there was definitely some wiggle room there. It's kind of crazy that is what happened. It's one of the most interesting downfalls of any ANW competitor ever. Yeah, and same with Brian, too. I mean, he's someone who we saw keep on going into Ninja World until 2014, where he came out in ANW 6 and fell on the second obstacle. There's very much layers to both these ninjas, so seeing them come back would have been interesting. But honestly, given both their lifestyles, especially Levi's, I am not surprised that both of them declined their tickets if this ended up happening. Yeah, and that's another thing too. I tried looking into this, but I could not find an official source for this where both of them announced it. Ninja Wiki said that both of them announced it somewhere, but they aren't clear on where. I could not find anything about this in either of those social medias as far as I could find. A lot of them aren't really all that public with the stuff, but Levi is still going on about environmental stuff, which is just totally his thing. That's totally on him. And Brian is just, kind of just vibing with the internet, He's kind of just living his life. So, generally speaking, I cannot find anything about these two getting asked to compete on ANW again. And well, yes, I can totally see it, and I've seen some conflicting evidence. Our best source on this is Ninja Wiki, which doesn't have a source, and then fucking Reddit again. We are fucking dealing with the whole Reddit shenanigans again, with the whole... I didn't think we'd be coming back to this. I mean, if you want to make that video about the scandals at ANW, that's where it's coming back from. Yeah, you're totally right. I should shut my mouth. A lot of scandals from ANW's past and future have originally come from Reddit, because this is an easy place for people to report. It's like the new 4chan, basically. And, then it just transfers to Ninja Wiki. People like, Andrew Lowe's famous incident back in Season 5, where, this actually was confirmed by Andrew Lowe's himself, so this one actually does have quite a bit of credibility, and actually did happen. He ended up clearing Stage 1 during that season, but then but the producers made it that he would time out. That Angelo's actually competed Stage 1 during Season 5 with like 4 seconds to spare, but the producers edited it in a way to where it made it look like he failed, and because of the drama, they purposely did not let him move on to Stage 2 despite him finishing. And that is crazy. And it also happened with Jailer Boyd. And another interesting thing about that one that wasn't exactly public at the time of us talking about it way back when it first happened, Flip Rodriguez actually went on record recently saying that if that ever happened to him, he'd stop competing. Which is a little drastic, but, like, I don't think he's wrong in saying that. Like, what happened to Jailer Boyd was pretty bad. Like, you clear Stage 3, and then they're like, nah, I mean, it's not as bullshit as the Angelo situation, but it's still almost as bullshit, Like, there wasn't really a better way of putting it. No, not really. Yeah, so let's start talking about ANW 17 and any episodes of the Qualifiers. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about episodes 2 through 6 of the Qualifiers. We covered episode 1 during the last episode. And, yeah, so starting off, we are going to be talking about episode 4 of the Qualifiers. And yes, we are starting with episode 4, not episode 2. The main reason for that is because of the way the courses work this season. Something that we weren't aware of is that there were 2 qualifying rounds per course. And the courses did not receive many changes between episodes either. Oh, God, where do I even begin with this? Yeah, it's like... we see the first 3 weeks and we saw new obstacles every week, so it gave us the impression that we were gonna see a new course every week, maybe like 2-3 obstacles changed out. Nope. The way they filmed this was 2 qualifying rounds per course, and they were aired in 2 batches, weeks 1 through 3, and then weeks 4 through 6, where the second round of each course went. we decided to structure this video so that way we can talk about each course. We talk about them course by course and not episode by episode. So, since we already covered episode 1, and we already talked about the obstacles in that course, we can just jump straight into episode 4 and talk about the ones from there. And then we'll talk about episodes 2 and 5, and then 3 and 6, which all had the same course from each other. And, yeah, that's how we're doing it. Yeah, so starting off with episode 4, this one was okay. I think the general consensus of the city qualifiers this season most of them were okay at best. I mean, I don't think anything got better than the first episode from what we saw. I mean, we watched through every episode, and to be honest here, most of them were worse, and a couple of them were actually slogs. Like, I would say episodes 2 and 3 were fucking awful to sit through, and we can get to those later. But just talking about episode 4, this was definitely one of the better ones for sure, just because there were a lot of ones here that were actually really good. So, yeah, what do you guys want to start with this? Yeah, so our caveat here is just talking about multiple people who moved on, or had shocking fails, or what's the story. I feel like the shocking fails part of this will be a little bit more tough to talk about, because we'll have to remember who ran each night. So that part, maybe we might slack a little bit in terms of who ran when. To be honest here. So, notice on that, if there's any big betters we did not talk about, it's likely that they just weren't that notable to us going into this, but not if their ones weren't special. I think the big thing to talk about with episode 4, and I think this comes down to every episode of the qualifiers this season, two of the most interesting phenomena is the fact that the top 20 people who ended up moving on were full of women and people who were not cut from the broadcast. Yeah, I think this is because there was such a low competitor base that we ended up finding out of people who just competed. They actually were able to show everyone from the top 20 in all of these episodes, which is awesome. It is so cool to not talk about these people. And there really is only one cut one that we saw before recording this that we're going to have to discuss a little later. Yeah, aside from that, it was like, we're cutting, really boring people here. We're cutting people who don't matter in the grand scheme of things. We're cutting people who don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So, that's really nice, and we're covering everyone in the top 20, which is a huge improvement from the previous 2 seasons, to where even just within the top 13, we weren't showing people, which is pretty bad, especially because of how small those rounds were. Just from this perspective, the rounds from season 15 and 16, only about 30 people competed in each round, while in this season, about 40 competed in each round. Season 15-16, the top 13 was taken, and a lot of those ones were not shown, were fast-forwarded. Like, the fastest time was often fast-forwarded in seasons 15 and 16. But here, they've improved on that by actually showing those ones a lot of the time. And the main reason for that is because of the new Mega Wall rule. With how short these courses are, a lot of people are getting under a minute, which is awesome to talk about. A lot of these people got under a minute. I mean, this episode alone had 6. Like, it is not a very high caveat to reach under a minute. Yeah, starting off with the people at the bottom of the leaderboard, we started off with 3 women who made it to the 5th obstacle. This was a very high achieving night for the women. We had a total of 5 women in the top 20, which once again mitigates the top 5 women. I think this happened in every round, which I think shows that they needed to discredit this rule because there were so little people, it doesn't even matter at this point. So, yeah, but anyway, we had, in the bottom half, who did not complete the course. First off, we had Jess Wombles, who surprisingly enough had competed before. She was not a rookie. She had competed actually on 3 ANW seasons before. 2 ANW seasons before this, seasons 14 and 16, as well as on ANW Junior. So, surprisingly enough, we have talked about her. It's just she wasn't all that notable beforehand. She made it all the way to the battering ram, which was really good for her. Then we had Grace Gordon, who was probably the most interesting of all these women. Because she was the one of the younger proteges of RJ Woman, and she did really well. She was also one of the last people to win as well, if I remember. So she was one of the more publicized people throughout the episode. So it's nice that she was given a good edit. I appreciate that. 2 people who were not given good edits were people in the were Kaylin Potts and Jaleesa Hempka, the two bigger-time veterans here. Kaylin Potts was not super well known, but she did well in season 14, getting to Vegas, and she also competed on season 16 as well. And then Jaleesa Hempka, she was runner-up for Best Rookie of the Year on our Stage 5 Ninja Awards. And generally speaking, did pretty decent in season 15. Season 16 was a little bit worse for her, but she still did pretty decently making it to the semis. So, overall, she still had a very good rookie year. So, yeah, these are two ninjas that definitely should have been shown, and then them getting fast-forwarded and making it all the way to the 5th obstacle. Kind of unfortunate. I understand that you can't show everyone, but it kind of sucks that that's what happened to them. The final woman in the top 20, that was Isabella Wakeham, who ended up clearing with 2:11 in 2:11. I don't think there's really much to know with her. It's just the fact that she completed the course, which could easily lead to a good comeback season for her. Season 15 and 16 were pretty rough for her, just to put it bluntly. Yeah, 2 back-to-back semifinal fails, like, that's something just to talk about, really. Yeah, like, you know, I think if there's anyone who needs to come back, the 2 people who are gonna get that comeback are OJ Woman and Isabella Wakeham, because, Jesus Christ, they had 2 very weak years. Yeah, OJ Woman a little less so, but even then, like, he needed a safety pass to get to stage 1, to get to stage 4 in season 15, like, there's definitely some slipping with him, and that's something interesting we can talk about when getting into his one a little later. Yeah, going into the leaderboard, and going into, like, the male competitors and more the male finishers and whatnot. We had Hunter Ogden, who honestly got one of the most annoying segments in this entire qualifier period, just another ham-fisted segment about some random disease. I think this one was Down syndrome. Like, really, guys? This is ANW, Crystal. Are you really that surprised? You know what? I really shouldn't be at this point. Yeah, the real one I'd like to talk about here is Caden Forshaw from ANW Jr. Yeah, Shadowbox Ninja. He's always someone I was really excited to see move up in the world. He's not the first person from the first season of ANW Jr., from the 9-10 age group to get to here. That was Taylor Green. But still, like, it's so awesome to see someone we've seen grow up through Ninja Jr. and now on the big show. And plus, Shadowbox Ninja, he was always one of my favorites as well. I'm someone who probably has ADHD, although I haven't gotten diagnosed, so I don't fucking know. But I'm just saying I can relate a lot to him. And honestly, it's cool to see what he's doing now, and it's cool to see him on the big show. I don't really think there's much more to it. He had a buzzer. It was awesome to see, to be honest. When we get into the top 7, though, we have some of the top veterans. These included Kyle Soderman, who got fast-forwarded, which is very typical for him, unfortunately. He cleared the course in 107, and then we have the top 6, who all cleared in under a minute. This starts off with R.J. Woolman, one of the best ones from him we've seen in a while. Like, you have to remember that R.J. Woolman came off the cups of, like, the Sasuke World Cup and ANW 16, 2 seasons that weren't the best for him, and honestly, I don't even know what to say about both of those seasons, especially the World Cup. So, him having a comeback here was good. He cleared the course. Him getting the Mega Wall was cool, although he didn't actually clear it. He just got under the time limit, which is still impressive. Yeah, we also had Caleb Bergstrom reaching 5th place, completing the course in 50.70. You can start to see that record for the fastest qualifying will start to get broken down really hard, and we'll start to get to it a little bit. He surprisingly enough failed the Mega Wall for the first time in his career, ending his 3-season streak. He was very close though, like, he was one of the closest to clear the Mega Wall. It was a big thing this episode because we hadn't seen it in the last 3. Someone actually cleared, and even during, like, the last 2 episodes, we didn't see many people even make it. I think it was just the fact that the Ferris wheel was on episode 2 and 5, but we'll get there. We can talk about it then. Yeah, then we have Enzo Wilson, who was shown and did have an interest, and did have a segment, to be brief about it, but not a notable one in the slightest. I think, honestly, that's one of the most interesting things about competitors this season. It's just, they have segments, but we couldn't care less about them. Yeah, like, who the fuck cares? Like, that's the real craziness about this. Who the fuck cares? Yeah. Anyway, so Enzo Wilson cleared it in 50.31 into the mega wall but failed it. Then we had Sam Folson, who was fast forwarded and cleared the course in 47 seconds. Then we had NASA Gilmore, who had the more notable ones, one of the more notable ones actually being the first this season to clear the mega wall. So good for him. I don't think there's really much more to go on about it, but good for him. The fact that it took this long for it to happen, it's kind of a worthwhile accomplishment. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but these how much taller the wall is, so it just kind of makes sense. Oh yeah, totally, 100%. Then we have Isaiah Thomas in the number 1 position. This is a really interesting one to talk about. Not only because he also got the mega wall and was the second competitor to claim the money from it this season. He also cleared the course in 42 seconds, which breaks Drew Dressel's world modern ANW record set way back in ANW 6 a full 10 years ago. Wow. Interesting prospect. Yeah, that one had just turned 10 years old at the time of filming as well. So, yeah. Isaiah Thomas beat it. And while yes, that is not the overall fastest qualifying one ever, there is faster, but we are going back to seasons 1 through 3 for that. So, like, this is a very fast one for modern AEW. Yeah, like, I don't think anyone's really going to beat this. This was the fastest one we saw in any qualifier. So, generally speaking, this was impressive. It's so cool to see that Dressel's one finally got, destroyed as the fastest AEW qualifying one. Of course, Ninja Warrior doesn't break it up at all. This was the fastest one ever. I think it just comes down to the easiness of this course. This course is very fast-paced. It's very easy to speed on it, which is a good thing. Improvising speed is a cool thing. Yeah, I mean, the slowest time was 2:42 on this course. Like, there wasn't really much more to it. Yeah, so with that, we can move on to the next qualifying round. Now we're going to jump back to episode 2 of the qualifiers, talking about the second course that we ended up seeing. Most of the obstacles were kept the same between episodes. Log 1 was swapped out for the flywheels, which it was cool to see this obstacle again. However, it had to be slammed with How to Train Your Dragon filtering because that movie is a movie that exists. I'm not even gonna get about my opinions about that movie's existence. Like, I don't even need to watch that movie to know it doesn't need to exist. It's a live action remake. I could talk about that for hours. In fact, I might even, actually. Yeah, Crystal's actually been diving into making more analysis title videos on her spare time, so yeah, check those out. Yeah, no shit, actually. Like, some of those videos are actually going to be interesting, and well, yes, I don't plan to talk about Ninja Warrior or anything adjacent to it. I do want to talk about some analysis style opinions on other things that I'm really interested in. Most notably, I recently released a video about Jack's P Music Show that is getting that I put a lot of time and effort into, and David also helped with the editing of, so if you guys are interested in that, go check it out. Plug. Why am I talking about my own channel right now? What is this? Yeah, but anyway, so How to Train Your Dragon, it was themed for the flywheels. It's very unfortunate that's how the sponsorships have to go now, because AEW lacks some money to actually make a brand new obstacle for them. It happened with Mutant Mayhem, but here it's even less so because it's not even a new obstacle. This is a previously made AEW obstacle. This is the same variant that was used in AEW 11 in the last appearance, where there is a much smaller flywheel in the middle. So, yeah, there's always that. I've always liked the obstacle, but it never really had much of a really cool innovation of itself, but it was interesting. I mean, it has taken out some veterans like Tawa Yamauchi, so it is a notable obstacle for sure. Yeah, but then we had the Log 1 as the balance obstacle. Definitely an obstacle that has felt like a real, like, drama scandal. It feels like they bring that obstacle back nowadays just to have people fall and have unanimous saves on it, because we had a lot of people who had those, to say the least. So, yeah, there was that. Then we have Spin Cycle, and then Ferris Wheel. Why is this obstacle still here, man? Like, we went so long without seeing it, and this obstacle fucking sucks. It's such a fucking time waster. And yes, I get it. And it's a tough obstacle, but I do not give a shit. It takes forever. Yeah, I think honestly it kind of shows we only had 2 ones this episode who got under a minute to claim the Mega Wall, and it's basically because of this obstacle. It is such a time waster and takes so long to complete. It led to less people getting the Mega Wall. Yeah, this one night was still full of finishers. Particularly, once again, I hate having to talk about the females first, but it always has to be them because they're at the bottom of the leaderboard. A lot of females got in here pretty well. And here, the first one to mention is Bailey Beckstrand, who is the youngest member of the Beckstrands to end competing at age 15. She is the younger sister of both Kai and Luke. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how well she does. She made 2 famous people in this film, so definitely leads to high hopes. We also had Violet Capel, who was a notable veteran from seasons 15 and 16, who got all the way to the warp wall, but fell for 3 attempts. Honestly, a bigger surprise there. I was not expecting someone to fall on the warp wall. I think she was the exception as well. Then we have Megan Woe and Katie Bone, ranked right next to each other on the 13th and 14th place on the leaderboard. Big gaps to no finishing time. Megan Woe could be, got 3:51, while Katie got 3 minutes. I don't think Megan's was all that special. She hadn't competed in a while. She hasn't competed since season 14. So her one should have been special, and it definitely was a gutsy one for sure. But there wasn't really much to it. Katie Bone was definitely the more notable one, because she had to compete since season 14, so that's a 2-season hiatus for her. And she did much better during season 14, and was one of the most publicized people on that season. She also won the women's competition that year, and she's also one of a couple women to complete stage 2 during the special competitions. Her doing it during the women, so yeah, there was a lot more to her, so seeing her again was awesome. It was also revealed that she is the girlfriend of Caden Lepsek in this episode, which was known by the public for a while, but I honestly surprised the fuck out of me. Yeah, Caden's got away with the climbers. You never know until you look at it. Damn. Just damn. I'm sorry, I noticed signs like that. Yeah, thanks, because you took AP, that's because we both took psychology in high school. Yeah, that was fucking up. But the night we found out we both taken psychology is fucking hilarious because neither of us even had influence of us taking psychology. Yeah, look at me. I don't take psychology. What is me? Yeah. Anyway, so finally, the final women we have to talk about is Annabelle Heinrichs, who cleared in the fastest time of all these women, clearing in 2:34, placing within the top 10. There wasn't really much to her one. But she's, a more well-known veteran. She has competed a couple times in ANW. I believe she was also nominated in the Certified Ninja Awards by us during season 14. So, yeah, there was some things notable about her. Going on to more the male ninjas and more of the more well-known ones. The people at the bottom of the leaderboard aren't really notable, but the first one on the leaderboard to be notable, that being Lauren Ball, who cleared the course in 2:39. Yeah, it's good to see him back at long last, too. Yeah, it's awesome. Lauren Ball, talk about her from the past seasons, and now the record could be an ANW season up till season 12. Yeah, we also haven't seen him since then as well, so... season 14 is still on, I forgot about that. But either way, it's still been a bit. Yeah, for sure. He's definitely probably one of the people they reached out to with that email that we talked about earlier. Yeah, definitely for sure. So it's good to see Lauren Ball back and hitting a buzzer as well. He may not have gotten the fastest time in the world, and I'm surprised, but this was a much tougher course. This is definitely the toughest and definitely the most time-consuming. So yeah, it makes sense. Moving on, we also have David Campbell in the 8th position. This one was really interesting. It was more of a slow one, but I think the most interesting thing about it is. It's just the fact that his technique on the Ferris wheel, where he did an interesting switch grip type thing with it. Fit on the final drop in order to save his arm strength, which ended up allowing him to clear it, despite him looking pretty out of it by the time he got there. So that was awesome to see, and of course him completing the course. We also had Jonathan Godbout in the 7th position on the leaderboard. He got fast-forwarded, which is unfortunate, unfortunate. I hope he has a much bigger comeback season for this year, because season 15 he had one, but it was very short-lived, and now he's back here in season 17, so I'm excited for him. Yeah, definitely for sure. Then we have Ashton Myler, and by extension Paxton Myler. These people were part of the Myler lineage, more specifically the Ninja Kids. These were a group of YouTubers who have kind of jumped off the Ninja Warrior craze, and I don't think these people are all that notable, but both of them finished, so we have to talk about them at least briefly. I think the more interesting one that we'll get to a little bit later is Peyton Myler, who competed in the 5th qualifying round, so we'll talk about her in a little bit. But yeah, then we also have Donovan Matoya, who was fast-forwarded, very unfortunate there. Kaden Lebsek, who was just short of the 1-minute barrier, getting in 4th place. We had Colt Elder, who competed on ANW Junior in Season 3 as a 14-year-old, and now is as a 13-year-old, and now is in the big show, getting 3rd place, minute and 1 second. Then we have the top 2 of the night, 2 lesser known, but still top veterans. First off, we have Evan Levi, who wasn't a known veteran, but he had competed on ANW Junior, and this was his first season on the big show, getting 54 seconds on the clock. That was pretty special. He was also one of the first to run, so that was cool. And then we had Colton Scuster, who had a breakout season on ANW 16, so it was cool to see him back, getting the top time of the night. Both of them attempted the Mega Wall, but ended up falling there. And, yeah, I guess I really did just talk forever on my own. I mean, we weren't complaining. Take walls from us. I mean, overall, I think all 3 of us get equal talking time, and plus we always have discussions in the group chat, so, like, keeping it brief here is always the best we can really do. Yeah, definitely. So moving on to episode 5, this was the second course to use episode 2's lineup. The same course from that season, from that episode. Going into that leaderboard, once again, women, I haven't talked about them first, but they are at the bottom of the leaderboard, so we just gotta start with them. We had some pretty cool ones for some women. We had Daniela Blanchard in the 20th position, the first competitor to move on to not at least reach spin cycle, which is unfortunate. Then we also have Brittany Durant, who is a more well-known veteran, who tried to slug her way through Ferris wheel, but ended up falling there. I say that mostly because she was gassing out by the end of it and almost cleared it. But yeah, there's that. And then we have the 2 bigger ones of the 3 bigger ones of the females, Shanique Levette and Maddie Howard, 2 well-known veterans when getting to complete the course. With the course, they will highly publicized as the second and third moms to complete the course, to complete a qualifying course ever, respectively, after saying these women. It's an accomplishment for them, but the show, I'd like the show to just shut up about the whole mom thing. It doesn't make them special. Yeah, like, it's just so weird. Like, because you're a mom, you're automatically less likely? Like, you know, it's just weird. Like, it's not white at all. Yeah, and then we also had Taylor Green as the top woman of the night. No surprise there. Completing the course in 10th place. Awesome for her. And before we move on to the male competitors, we also got Peyton Myler, another competitor from ANW Junior, coming into the big show after a big, long build-up over the course of the first, well, for Peyton, it's just the first 2 seasons of Ninja Junior. But she was still, like, a top competitor back then. She was more well-known at the time for being a social media star, and the Ninja Kids as a branch off of that. We mentioned branch off of that, so yeah, this one was a big shocker, though. I gotta give you that one. This was probably one of the biggest shocks of the year on this one, at least in the qualifiers. Yeah, like, she fucking fell in log runner. Like, you know, I was expecting her to be the big star of the night, but that did not happen here. No, sir. I think it's actually really weird seeing someone that good go out there. Yeah, Payne's also someone, like, we just mentioned it, she's had a lot of build-up over the course of ANW Junior, not as much as someone like Forsha or Ryan Cooper, but, like, it's just someone who we thought would do super-duper well in the big show, and I do hope she gets another shot, you know, Season 18 exists, I think there's definitely a possibility for that, but as for showing here, unfortunately it didn't go so well, and honestly, sometimes it happens. With ANW, if you go out early, you kind of just have to deal with it and take it like a champ, and I think she took it pretty well. So, yeah. Then moving on to some of the male competitors, we had Brian Quetch. It's really good to see him back. I was not expecting him to compete ever again. I am very happy that his exit on Domino Effect from season 15 was not his final ever appearance in AEW, because that was an awful appearance and very disrespectful of him as a competitor, honestly, in my opinion. Just in the way of the editing, so it's really good to see him again. Even if it was a fast forward, it's good to see him clear again. We also had Nicholas Coolidge, as I previously mentioned. This is where he competed, and he cleared in 3 minutes. So despite him being a little bit rusty, he was still able to do well. We also had other notable veterans too, including Andreas Johnson completing the course. Not really people too notable, but still veterans. Going into the top 7, we have more notable veterans, Alex Nye and Max Feinberg, plus 2 well-known veterans who got fast-forwarded. We also have 2 notable here from ANW Jr., Hans Hertz, who is coming back for his amazing season during season 15, but also Evan White from ANW Jr. 3. Yeah, this was awesome. Like, Evan's someone I've been wanting to see come into the main sport for a while here, so it's really awesome to see him back. So, yeah, this is also a really cool one, too. Despite it being a fast forward, it was so cool to see again. He caught the course in 1:16. Then getting into the top 3, we have Sean Bryan occupying the 3rd place position. This was a cool one. I think he had a really cool segment as well. Oh, yeah, no doubt. This was a very fun one to watch. We also had Luke Beckstrand and Kai Beckstrand dominating the night with the 2 top positions. Luke Beckstrand finishing in 54 seconds, Kai finishing in 52. Both got attempts at the Mega Wall, and while Luke fell, Kai Beckstrand got his 3rd Mega Wall ever, clearing it for the 3rd time in a row, and of course being the 3rd competitor to compete all season, so that's good for him. It's really cool to see that again. Oh yeah, for sure. Kai may not be someone that's super notable, but he is still definitely built a well-known competitor status. Hell yeah. It's weird talking about someone like Kai because he's not special, but, he's definitely built up a very recognizable name, especially for the Beckstrands themselves. Yeah, for sure. It kind of sucks that, they competed way before, way after the system. So it's a little weird having her in that episode and then having them in this one. I am very curious, what determined what round you were in, but I think it was probably just random. Yeah, so moving on to the 3rd and final course for this, for the qualifiers. I will showcase in episodes 3 and 6. We have the Lunatic Ledges taking the 2nd place spot. I find this one really hilarious because they say, we haven't seen this obstacle in a while. Where this obstacle was in season 14. It's, I guess it's been kind of a minute, but this is definitely the most recent obstacle that we end up seeing again. Yeah, for sure. This episode also had Log Runner. There was Crank It Up, which was a big shock to see back. I was so glad to see this one back. It definitely made a big showcase. And then we also had V Formation. Not an obstacle I was expecting to ever come back, ever. Yeah, definitely for sure. This was definitely my favorite course, just because of seeing 2 awesome obstacles I haven't seen in a while. Crank It Up, we haven't seen season 11, and season 13 had V Formation, but it was never seen again after that, so it's cool to see it back. Also one of the more dynamic obstacles. So, yeah, this round led itself to be a pretty interesting one, and it was. Yeah, this was the least successful round, only having 9 finishers. And it was also a really interesting round, as this round had a really interesting rule with the Mega Wall. Not only people completing in under a minute can attempt it, also people competing in under 1:10 can attempt it. Which is weird, because people cleared in under 1:10 in previous episodes did not attempt it. What the fuck? That is so unfair. Yeah, and it's such a weird discrepancy between episodes, because for episodes 4 and 5, we go right back to the original rules. And then for episode 6, we hopped right back to it. you know, people under 110 could make it into the Mega Wall. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, how could you even justify making a rule change that late? Yeah, it's definitely because of episodes 2 and 5 not having many people reach the Mega Wall, so it kind of makes sense to make it just a tiny bit more lenient. But even so, you can't just make a mid-competition rule change like that. You know? Yeah, it's just a really weird discrepancy between episodes. If they didn't have the discrepancy, though, no one would have tried the Mega Wall, so I bet you they were happy they made the discrepancy. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, going into the leaderboard now, and hopping into the women, because, again, the women are the most interesting. This is the first night we are covering where there wasn't a female finisher. As all the women came into the bottom of the leaderboard. We had Casey Hughes and Casey Rothschild, who both fell in log winner, occupying the 20th and 19th position. We had the comeback of Taylor Amon, who had been seen since season 12, making it to crank it up. So, pretty cool to see her. We also had Emily Gardner and Addie Herman, two notable veterans from seasons 15 and 16. Of course, Herman a little bit more so. Both of them fell in V formation. Addie Herman being the top woman of the night. And then we also have Sydney Yee, who was a big star from ANW 15 and 16, did really well in 16, but then falls on log one here on a fast forward. God, that could have been such a shocking fail, but it's one of those forgettable ones, to be honest here. Yeah, if you weren't paying attention, you might not even realize that she even landed this season, to be real. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, by extension as well, we also had Dylan Yee. If I said that way, I don't fucking know. He is, Sydney Yee's brother, who also went on log one. I think both of them had the same fast forward segment, so, yeah, it's only really notable because both of them went together. But, yeah, just really unfortunate to see. Yeah, moving on to more of the male competitors. Rounding off this lower list, we have people like Bailey Boyd in the bottom part. We also have Ryan Stratus, probably the most notable of all these bottom half people. He had a very gutsy one, gunning his way through Crank It Up. This one was very tough to watch because of how much he struggled with that obstacle. But he got through it, but unfortunately was not able to clear V formation, which makes some sense given how tired he was. But I think seeing him clear Crank It Up was by far my favorite moment of the night. And maybe one of my favorites, the qualifiers in general. Like, it's definitely up there. Oh, fuck yeah. Like, definitely for sure. Moving on, getting into the top 9 who ended up clearing the course, we have Philip Scott in 8th place. This was just notable because they actually bothered to show him, and this is the first time he's competed in a while, and the first time he's getting actual showship in a while as well. He also competed alongside Ethan Gordelski, who we did talk about in season 16 of the show, when we covered season 16. He got a very overblown segment about his depression, and he definitely got another one here, but this one was more about Philip and his impact on Gordelski's life. Honestly, I think it's a very tough segment to watch because it feels very ANW-esque, to put it lightly. Yeah, definitely for sure. So both of them cleared the course. We also had Ramsey Valdez, another veteran from ANW 15 and 16, who ended up clearing as well. We saw rookie Tate Becker also clear the course and as a fast forward, which is unfortunate. We also had Jason Baylitz, who is barely notable, but he was one of the top finishers of the night and is the younger brother of Ben Balin, so he's part of that lineage. I think his segment was really ham-fisted, if I'm being real here. It just to be brief, yes. Just the idea of them just really pushing this brotherly relationship. And not only that, just, I don't know, Jason just has a look to him. Like, it's nothing I want to be insulting about, but it's just like, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's kind of just hard to look at. God, I'm so fucking, like, rude. I should shut my fucking mouth. I'm gonna shut up. Okay, so we totally just offended someone in the audience. Jason himself or someone else. We're very sorry. I totally should not have let you win your mouth like that. You know what? Maybe I deserve it at this point, you know? Yeah, anyway, he quit the course. Admittedly enough, it was one of the more impressive ones just because he's a rookie, but, like, I can't say I care. But didn't say I KO, but we kind of have to mention it because it was one of the top ones in the night. And then finally, before we get to the top 3, we have James McGrath. Not really an interesting one, but it's always cool to see James. He had a very decent one here. Yeah, then we have the top 3, which consisted of Jay Lewis, Jackson Odos, and Josiah Papel. Jay Lewis had a fast-forwarded one and got under 110, so he got to try the Mega Wall. He ended up failing it. Then we had Jackson Odos, who we haven't seen since season 14, so it's awesome to see him back. He ended up attempting the Mega Wall as well, but came up short. And then we had Josiah Papel as the top one of the night, calling in 102. So, yeah, this night had no finishers in under a minute, which definitely makes it seem like it was a good call to make it on, 110, because we would not have saw anyone try the Mega Wall, but not like it didn't happen in seasons 15 and 16 as well, even with the 120 barrier in that season. Yeah, so it's a little interesting. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, there's not much to it in the grand scheme of things, but I'm just like, still, how could you even justify making a rule like that? Yeah, I can't say they had very interesting ones, but yeah, one last one I'd like to mention because it did not come up yet, but when going back to the women, we had Michelle Wonky going out on log runner, not being too slow to move on, but Michelle Wonky's a big-time veteran here. It's kind of tough to see her go out like that. Oh, I almost completely forgot about her. Thank you. But, yeah, this was a tough one to sit through as well. Yeah, moving on to episode 6. And this one was awkward. Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of big-time veterans in this episode, but it really, I don't know, it was just kind of hard to find it entertaining. Well, when you fast forward the fastest time of the night, that's something. Are we gonna really start with Noah Muni, or I feel like we should end with that? Yeah, I kind of want to start with him because it's the one I'm most pissed about. Oh god, yeah. Episode 6 does have a lot to talk about, so I guess we should just start with the one part that wasn't shown. Nathaniel Hanvu. Oh yeah, so we've been keeping this under wraps for a little bit in this episode, but there is, we mentioned that everyone in the top 20 was shown, and this season has been decent enough with showing everyone that needs to be shown. We have literally the one exception. Now, as we know, roughly about 22 or so ones from the qualifiers were cut. It's about the rough number here. At staring at these, we don't have anyone really notable, except fucking Nathaniel Hanvu from ANW Jr. I think it's so weird to talk about this one not being shown when Ryan Cooper had the same exact thing happen to him, but he got shown. What the fuck? Yeah, just to qualify, Nathaniel Hanvu went out on the lunatic ledges in the 6th qualifier, wasn't even shown in the episode, wasn't even given a second mention. What the fuck? Yeah, as you know, this was seen on Ninja Wiki by some post on the forums, so, it's, legitimacy can be thrown up to debate, but I think it's pretty good this was actually is just true, because we do see a picture of Nathaniel Hanvu in ANW 17 on his page as well, so it definitely did happen. So, what the hell? This is a big guy from ANW Junior, and they just don't show him. WTF. Yeah, it's, right there. It's right there. There. I think it's there. And on the topic of other cut ones, there wasn't really many notable people. I think the only notable person in this list is probably True Becker, just because we haven't seen him compete in a while, and he was originally slated to compete, but it's reported that he did not compete for some reason. Nothing really cool on that, though. Just, that's what's on this list. Yeah, but alright, are now ready for the outro episode? Yeah, I think we're ready for the outro episode. Going into the top 20 and starting with the women as we keep on doing. We might as well just complete the 6th show and talk about the women for the 6th time first. First off, we have Caroline Capuati, and Olivia Keys, 2 rookies who ended up getting the 19th and 20th spots in the top 20 respectively, going out on log 10. Not really notable, but there you go. We also had Alyssa Beard make her return after a very long hiatus, because we haven't seen her in a long time. Like, ANW 14, I think, was the last time we saw her, and she had a very shocking fail there. I think. God, I don't even remember. I think it was actually season 13 the last time we saw her, and she went out early in the qualifiers, and technically moved on to the finals, but it was as a replacement for someone else, so they didn't show her in the finals. Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Do not quote us on that, but I think you are right. Season 15, we know she had a shoulder injury, but I am genuinely wondering if she could be on ANW 14. Let me just look that up real fast. You gonna do that? I'm gonna do that because I'm very curious. Okay, so she did fall in ANW 14. She fell in the Open. Okay, got it. Yeah, I was like, I think I remember her competing now. Alright, good point. Anyway, the final woman here is Abby Clark, who got just her 3rd buzzer ever. Just really cool to see, you know. Someone who's become a top woman over the years. I don't think there's really much to note about the one itself, but, like, it's always cool to see her get, you know, showtime. Yeah, we also had Rachel DeGuts, who fell on view formation and definitely should have been shown. Like, this is one of the more annoying fast forwards. And just to round off the women, we got Maggie Thorne. Yeah, that was an unfortunate one. Like, they literally just passed by this without even a passing mention. And she went out on losing ledges, was fast forwarded. So, like, they bought her up because veteran. And I always question why they bother with people like that when, like, they aren't as popular as others, so I feel like if you're not watching the show, you're not really going to care or really notice that it happened. Yeah, even then, like, even here, like, I couldn't even tell you that I remember that Thorne ran until, you know, we did this podcast episode. Like, you know, they just brushed past her, like, you know? I think before we move on to some of the more top people in the leaderboard, I think we have to mention one person who did not move on. Brett Sims. Oh, yeah, that's right. This was a weird one to watch, I gotta tell you. Yeah, you know, Brett Sims is always someone you'd expect to go super far. You know, he's not like a top veteran, but he's been competing so long, it's he's always an easy person to root for. And he's always someone I've wanted to see go super duper far. Never really happened beyond that in here. Not the case either, because he went out on Log Runner. Very unfortunate to see, but it happens. We've talked with all the shocking fails we've talked about over the course of this episode. It's just always just sentiment of it happens. It's just like you just have to move past it, unfortunately. And something like Sims, it's kind of hard to watch when, like, you know, you have to wait all year and then poof in the water. Yeah, I think that's also the way you just kind of crack the code of what shocking feels is shocking in the fucking first place. Not unintentional, but kind of is the reason why it was in the Safe Ninja Awards for so long and why we always bring it up, because it's just like, well, we have to wait so long to see these people perform, and then it just happens. It's like, nope, we're never seeing them ever again until the next year. And that's going to be even harder when, like, we don't know when, like, it's going to be the final season of the show. Oh, yeah. That's going to be kind of harsh to, like, deal with. Probably next year, to be honest here. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I feel like there's a possibility when they might push to ANW 20 just because they want to end on a round number. But, I don't know, do they have the money to push it that far? Do they want to? Who knows? 18's not a bad number to end on, but I kind of feel like that's what we're going to set. Yeah, do we just want to whip off the Band-Aid because he's early in the leaderboard? Who are we talking about here? Jamie Wan. Oh, sure, why not? Jamie Wan got fast-forwarded, but got redemption over season 15-16 where he fell in both qualifiers. This was very much worth it to see. At least in my opinion. And we should have been fully shown. Like, it's kind of tough to see this one. Yeah, like, this is Jamie Wan, one of the top veterans. Like, the way he has been thrown out of relevancy is, like, insane to me. This is insane to me. He's also one of the biggest long-time veterans. He's competed just as long as James McGrath, and he's competed on more seasons, too. Why haven't they given Juan any kind of starship recently? I think the big one recently has just been Juan hasn't been consistent. His last good season was season 10, where every other season competed on since, he has gone out surprisingly early. He went on stage 1 in seasons 13 and 14, and then failed to make it for 15 and 16. Those are pretty disappointing stats for someone like him, but it's still like, hits all those spots when you realize how much of a contender Juan used to be for the million. Yeah, it's kind of tough, you know? It kind of sucks. Yeah, yeah, we also had Bob Weiss in the top 20, as well as Emil Malik returning from ANW 13. Good to see him again. I don't know, it's Emil Malik. I never really cared for him. I remember how much pissy I would get about Emil Malik just because of what happened to him in season 12. But like nowadays, he's just some random guy who competed twice, man. Like, he's not that special anymore. Yeah, it's like kind of interesting to see how they treat him in this episode, actually, because they gave him a segment and everything and propped him up as best they could. But you kind of have to realize that Emil didn't really do much in his runs on ANW, especially past season 12. Like, that was such a fluke performance at this point. So it's kind of weird to have them talk about someone like that. Yeah. Yeah, we also had Ben Balins, Matt Domingo, and Xavier Dance, who are all getting fast forwards, taking 5th, 4th, and 3rd place, respectively. Kind of unfortunate for all of them, but there you are. We also had Lucas Reali, who got a full-on segment. This was probably one of my favorite segments of the entirety of Season 16 so far. Of actual stories, this one really stuck out to me because it was ninja related, it was worth talking about, and apparently Lucas Reali has a ninja gym in a fucking mall. In a mall? Really? Look at that background. He's in a mall. Okay, was he really? He was in a mall! Like, legit, that gym looks so small. I guess, can I get a sec? I want to look at that. Pull it up on screen, Crystal, because I need to see this again. Now that I'm actually looking at it, I kind of get what you're saying, John. Yup. He's in a mall. Yeah, that's such a weird thing. Like, it's such a small complex. How? That's even smaller than someone like Evan Andrews' gym, which is a backyard course, if you guys remember from, when his little bit of social began in ANW 14, like, his gym being the only one in Montana. Yeah, that was a big one. And then here we have a gym that's in a mall. Like, I guess there really isn't much to say, but it's just funny. Yeah, Lucas also had a really good one, getting the sixth place on the leaderboard. Then we get to the top 2. Joe Mulaski, who was the final runner of the night overall, the final shown one. This was pretty decent. He also got under the qualifier for the Mega Wall, but wasn't able to try it. He was the only fully shown person to get this, but there was also Noah Munya, who, as we previously alluded to, got fast-forwarded, but yet beat Joe's time by just under a minute, just under a second. God, what is with this tradition of Noah just keep on getting sidelined? Yeah, I don't even really know at this point. Like, I mean, they bothered to show Addie Herman in a full one, into the full one last time. Why don't they show Noah? I mean, Noah also, was in the top 3 of the last 2 seasons. Yeah, they're already milking NASA as of his qualifier one because they can't talk about Vance with him not being in the season. Like, how do you do that? Yeah, and they didn't even bother really doing much with Caleb Bergstrom either. We have all the top veterans from Season 16, and we're not even going to bother with them. Like, I think that's only 2 of the 5 that they aren't doing anything with. Yeah, because Kai and NASA are really the only 2 who got spotlight, and Vance isn't competing. So, yeah, it really does feel like that, man. And that kind of hits me in the gut, Kind of just, annoys me. To the bitter end. Yeah, but that's about it for Qualifier 6 and the Qualifiers in 17 in general. Any final thoughts? What do you guys think? This was one of the biggest slogs fest I think I've ever witnessed in ANW. Like, seriously, I think it was so hard to sit through qualifier after qualifier for us just waiting for it to end. I think that's a good sentiment, actually. Like, I kind of agree with that. Like, it's not like these episodes were awful, but, like, nothing reached the heights of the first episode. And even so, with that, they were still tough to sit through, even so. Yeah, I mean, it is nice to see a normal build-up to Vegas again. Oh, it's the equivalent of Vegas. You know, it is nice to see that. It does bring back ANW 14 and all the previous seasons. But to be honest, it kind of just feels like Season 14 too. And even more so because this is, you know, no new obstacles, any of that stuff. It does make this courses look better, but by proxy, it makes the season less interesting. Which kind of is a weird opinion to have, don't you think? It kind of sucks to have that opinion, if you ask me, because, like, you want so badly to like something, and then you just slightly, like, I can't like this as much as I want to. Yeah, I think that's, like, yeah, I think it just, like, kind of sucks. like, I was kind of looking forward to this season because I wanted to see what would happen. I mean, we have half of a normal season and half of a watered down season here. This could be something interesting. And no, I'm not gonna say that's not. But, like, these are the qualifiers, and, like, well, yes, they could have been more interesting. They just weren't. Like, I think the best way to describe it is a lot of this feels like typical ANW, and there wasn't really much to separate it from that. Yeah, like, AEW is still doing their typical, you know, showcase the people with the big stories, ignore a lot of veterans, you know, they're doing a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's harsh. Like, it's kind of harsh to see the show like this. But the show is still feeling like the show. I think that's a big one here. AEW still feels like AEW. It doesn't feel like Ninja vs. Ninja quite yet. Oh, it's probably gonna get there, I guarantee you. Because, like, as we get closer to the wasting, you know they're gonna hype it up like wildfire. Even in the semis when, like, there's no wasting at all, you know they're gonna hype it up a lot. Yeah, especially as the semis lead straight into the wasting stuff, so, like, they're probably gonna hype it up a lot. I don't think you're wrong about that at all. Yeah. Yeah, but I think that puts it out of wrap, guys. That's it for the ANW 17 qualifiers. So, next time, I think it's likely you guys will see the Team Ninja stuff, depending on how long it takes me and Crystal to edit it. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. As of recording, we have recorded all of it, and it's about 2 hours worth of material. So we'll see how long the episode ends up being in general. I think it might also be spread out into 2 parts, which is also a possibility too. I think it's most likely that either A, next episode is going to be that, or B, next episode will be the NW 17 semifinals. There's going to be 3 of those, and the first one is going to air tomorrow as of late. So, yeah, and definitely, yeah. I would expect that by the time this is out, I think we're either going to be halfway through or all the way done with the semis. That's my best guess, because I'm not perfect getting these videos out on time. It's kind of hard for me to do that. I'm also kind of juggling a whole bunch of different things right now. I'm juggling life stuff. Orientation is within a couple weeks from now. So I'm juggling, but getting myself prepped for that. And the mental overhaul of everything. So a lot is happening for all of us. So that's why videos have been kind of slowly. But we're still trying to get together and do what we do. And produce content for you guys, because genuinely speaking, I still have a lot of passion for this. And yeah, you know, this is my channel, so I want to keep it going as long as I feel the motivation to. That's like the best way to put it. So harsh, man, though. Like, seriously, that's the only reason why you're doing this, is because you have the motivation. Wow. I mean, I'm glad I'm not depressed anymore, but I guess I should be, really. I guess that's my own fault. I don't even know anymore. Yeah, but I guess that means we'll see you guys next time. Yeah, we'll see you guys next time for either A, Team Ninja Warriors Season 1, or the NW 17 semifinals. Whichever one comes out first. I think it's supposed to be the Team Ninja stuff, because that one we already started editing in the semifinals. We still have a couple more weeks till it finishes, in us recording and getting it through. But there's also the fact that, you know, we gotta cover the finals as soon as possible, too.